Good Sunday morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Lions Grid. I am your host, Kevin Marhine, and today we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars coming to town to play the Detroit Lions in this Week 13 matchup of the 2022 NFL season. Um, both teams coming into this game at 4-7, and both teams currently on the outside of the playoff hunt. Of course, there are now 7 teams for both the AFC and the NFC that make it to the playoffs, and currently all 7 spots are mathematically still available. Of course, you have teams like the 9-2 Kansas City Chiefs, the 9-3 Buffalo Bills, the 10-1 Philadelphia Eagles, and the 9-2 Minnesota Vikings, who are very close to clinching their playoff berth. So we're going to start to see those numbers come down from 7, but still mathematically a chance, technically, for both of these two teams to make the playoffs. The Jacksonville Jaguars are currently sitting as the 11th place team in the AFC, and the Lions are currently sitting at 10th place, just below the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. With the interesting thing being in the NFC bracket of the playoffs that there are all 4 of the NFC East teams currently sitting. If the playoffs were to start today, all 4 of the NFC East teams would be in the NFC playoffs. So kind of interesting on that part. But today we're talking about these 2 teams who, again, no guarantee they're going to make the playoffs, but still mathematically in it. So a little bit of extra intrigue as these teams square off today. So if they either team, if they want to keep those playoff hopes alive, need a win here, and it should be a pretty good game. Jacksonville has won, I think, 2 of their last 3, and are looking pretty good. Um, I think last year underneath Urban Meyer in that garbage fire that was the Jacksonville Jaguars, um, people were a little, taken aback. They weren't so sure that Trevor Lawrence was worth that first pick in the first round that he was taken with. But here this season, underneath Doug Peterson and that new coaching staff for the Jaguars, the team's looking a lot better, a lot better. Also, I believe that Travis Etienne will be a go today, so that's going to be something I think to keep an eye on. The Lions' rush defense has been subpar this season. And not only do they have Travis Etienne going, but they do have a couple of other backs. They added Daryl Henderson. Hasty last week filled in rather nicely for the injured Etienne. And they do a great job of not only running the ball, but also making plays out of the backfield in the passing game as well. So that could be for a key for the Detroit Lions to get a win this week. They really want to try and limit the effectiveness of those backs because it's something that the team has historically struggled with this season, and it's something that the Jaguars excel at. So if they can help limit that, that should help give them a better chance of finding success today and getting a win at Ford Field. But I think that's a boost for the Jaguars, knowing that they have Travis Etienne and their full complement of running backs heading into this game again against the Detroit Lions defense that has struggled against the run. A boost for the Lions, on the other hand, well, there's really 2, I think, really positive talking points. The first one is the fact that we are going to see our first of Jamison Williams. This is going to make his NFL debut here in Week 13. Of course, the Lions traded up to take him in the first round in this year's NFL draft, so this will be our first time seeing him in action, and it's going to be. I think the speedster can add a very nice new deep threat element that we sort of been missing from this Lions offense. I think DJ Chark, to an extent, has tried to play that role, but it hasn't seemed like DJ Chark and Jared Goff have had a whole lot of chemistry. They haven't been able to connect on a lot of those deep passes, and so that threat of the over top, deep play ball hasn't really been there for the Lions. Jamison Williams is supposed to be, he was very speedy before his injury. People are thinking that he hasn't lost a step or 2, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. I believe with this being his first game back, the Lions are probably going to be closely monitoring his snaps, making sure that he doesn't put himself in any position where he can re-injure himself. Um, Obviously playing at Ford Field, one of the fields that does have the AstroTurf that has been causing a lot of knee problems for players recently. You saw Von Miller last week for the Buffalo Bills leave that game, and he's now on IR with a knee injury. um, there's certainly a risk just stepping on the field and playing on that without the natural grass. Playing on this turf in Ford Field does unfortunately put Williams' knee potentially in danger. So, I expect they really will be watching him pretty closely. He might get a target or two in the game, and hopefully that he can connect on those and make the most out of the probably limited opportunities that we'll see him get here in the first week. But I think now and moving forward, especially as they do try and make a playoff push, getting Jamison Williams into this offense is going to be, I think, a good thing and could potentially be one of the things that helps get them into the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see there. Um, then I think another thing that also not only helps in this game, but also helps them moving forward is the fact you take a look at their injury list, and the Lions are getting really healthy at the right time of the year. They do not have a whole lot of injuries. Their inactives for this week include defensive lineman Michael Brockers, center Evan Brown, wide receiver Tom Kennedy, defensive lineman Romeo Aquara, cornerback Amani Awarie, and guard Logan Stenberg. So most of the starters, they're healthy. They're playing in this game. And certainly gives the Lions a good chance to take down the Jaguars. As the healthier you are, typically, the better your team plays. You don't have to rely on people who are untested, don't have experience to come in and try and fill that void in that next man up role. You when you have your full complement of starters, there's not a lot to complain about. So, um, earlier in the year, there were quite a few injuries, so some of the younger guys got a lot of experience. So now the Lions have some depth too. It's as far as the injury bug is going, it's treating the Lions very nicely this season. It's setting itself up where, hey, we have our starters back. We were able to get our younger players some experience earlier in the season, so that there is that depth. It'll be interesting to see, but from an injury perspective, like I said, not only in this game against the Jaguars where they don't have any key players out, but also as they again try and see if they can't do the unthinkable and make the playoffs. The Lions are really set up from that perspective to be successful. Um, so again, I think really those are two boosts for the Lions there. The fact that we get Williamson back, or Williams will be making his NFL debut, and the fact that there aren't many injuries in general for this Detroit Lions team. Um, Really, really nice things for them. And then, a boost for the Jaguars as they're getting Travis Etienne back for this game. He's a very dynamic player. And like I said, he can not only run the ball well, but he does make a lot of really great plays out of the backfield for them in the passing game as well. So he's a guy I know I have him in fantasy football. He hasn't disappointed me. Usually he's in that 20-point range. Last week was a little bit of a bummer because he did go out early in that game and didn't score any points. So that was the one knock against him. But um, hopefully well, I guess not hopefully for us Lions fans, but for his fantasy football owners and of Travis Etienne, hopefully he comes back out and has a more solid game uh, today against the Lions. But really, I think um, it was a tough loss last week to the Bills during the Thanksgiving week. It's certainly a game the Lions could have won. And I think if they had been playing a team like Jacksonville, they may have very well won that game. The Bills are just a team that is more talented. And when you're playing teams that are more talented, you can't make those types of mistakes that the Lions made in that game. It's just harder to overcome. You're already at a disadvantage from a talent perspective. So if you make mistakes like that help give that more talented team a chance to win the game, chances are they're going to take advantage of that, and that's what happened to the Lions in their last outing at Ford Field. So this week, hopefully what you'll see from the Lions is they get back to taking care of the ball. That fumble last week by Williams was Jamal Williams was a changer. A game changer there. Hopefully the Lions can sort of make sure they're taking care of the ball, and then hopefully the defense can continue what they've been doing in previous weeks. And they even forced um, Allen into making some mistakes in turning the ball over. If the Lions defense can continue to generate those turnovers and takeaways, and the Lions offense can secure the football and not give the Jaguars opportunities, it's pretty simple. You can say that really for any NFL team, but it really is the key to success. You have to make less mistakes than your opponents. Having your full complement of starters with that, it certainly looks like this is a game. This is going to be I think, a pretty spicy game. Like I said, both teams are 4-7, but both teams still have a lot to play for. Both are still mathematically eligible to make the playoffs. Again, all seven playoff spots in both the AFC and the NFC are available. And I think what's really blown me away with the Lions is they've sort of um, stuck to it, and they kept their nose down. And really, I thought the season was over in September. I was sort of like, well, this is going to be sort of a boring season because we're really just playing for a draft pick at this point in time, and there isn't going to be really a whole lot to say about the individual games because really it's just a race to the bottom. And that has changed. Like I said, there is still a chance that the Lions can make the playoffs. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. I'm not expecting it to happen anyways. I certainly was a lot more optimistic heading into the season. You had all the hype from Hard Knocks and things like that, and I thought the Lions potentially could be one of those teams that either went from worst to first, or at the very least, was right there towards the top of the NFC North. Um, they are technically in um, second position in the NFC North, but there's a lot of distance between them and the Minnesota Vikings. The nice thing, though, is they do have two upcoming games again. Well, they actually have three upcoming games against their NFC North opponents. Um, Next week, believe it's next week they're playing the Vikings, and that should be. A, I think that's the toughest game left on their schedule. But they close out the season hosting the Bears and then traveling to Green Bay. So there's certainly a lot of winnable games left on the schedule for them. I think this game against the Jaguars, next week's game against the Vikings, and then heading out to New Jersey to take on the Jets. These next three games, I think, are going to be the really do or die games in terms of what the season can be for the Lions. Like if they are going to make the playoffs, I think they need to, at the very least, take 2 out of 3. But realistically, to feel really confident about their playoff chances, I think you're going to want to see them go 3 for 3 here, which would be one home win, or which would be two home wins and then one road win. If they can manage to do that with the Panthers, Bears, and Packers, the remaining 3 games in the season, I think that really does put them in a good place and would add a whole lot of intrigue as we get down to the end of the season. But this game against the Jacksonville, focusing on today, again, it's pretty spicy. Both of these teams, things to play for, and their potential road to the playoff involves this game. Both these teams need a win. It should make it a pretty good game. And both of these teams, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville Jaguars playing well. Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions offense playing well. The defense has stepped up. They get back Jeff Okuda, who they missed last week. And certainly you saw on that last play, not the last play of the game, but the play where Stephon Diggs was able to get that big chunk of yards to put them in position to win the game. Having Jeff Okuda out there would have been fantastic. And so getting him back this week, you're looking at a mixture of Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Marvin Harris. It's a homecoming for Marvin Jones Jr., but it should be a pretty good game, and one that I'm definitely interested in checking out this afternoon. And I think really, who am I picking as the winner in this one? This is where it gets tricky. I don't want to overthink it. I think the Lions should be the favorite in this game. But that being said, when I've picked the Lions so far this season, it hasn't gone well. But I am going to go with the Lions at home in this game against the Jaguars, picking them to get the win. It's the first time in a few weeks that I've picked them. Really, unfortunately, they did lose that Thanksgiving Thursday night game against the Bills. But the fact that they played the Bills as well as they did, coming off that win streak that the Lions had, I think they have a lot of positive momentum. They've got most of their key players back from injury. We're going to see Jamison Williams debut today. Um, I'm going the Lions and hope that this momentum they have can carry them forward in the season, and we can keep some intrigue as we close out this 2022 regular season. All right, everybody. This has been the pregame episode of the Lions Grid. We will be back on Monday to take a look at the outcome of the game, and hopefully, I'll get a pick 'em win here as I'm picking the Lions over the Jaguars. But it's one thing we forgot to talk about. We were talking about before we sign off here, talking about draft picks in a race to the bottom. If you haven't seen, Matt Stafford was placed on IR for the Rams. And of course, the Lions, as part of that trade between the Rams and themselves for Stafford, have LA's first pick in next year's draft. And it's looking like that should be a potential top three draft pick. So, um, I think it definitely makes it more palatable for me to say, hey, yeah, if you guys want to go after this playoff push, go for it because we already know you're going to be getting a early first round pick thanks to your trades with the Rams. So why not? Why not go all out and try and make the playoffs here? Because you're not going to be penalized too hard thanks to the struggles that the LA Rams have had this season. So I'm saying go Lions, go all in, and let's see if you can't make a run of this. And it starts today against Jacksonville. You're at home. Secure this win, and we'll go from there. All right, everybody. I'm Kevin Marhine. This has been the Lions Grid. We're coming live to you as always on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Whichever one of those is your favorite platform, go ahead and search the Lions Grid. You should be able to find our profiles on there. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all the great stuff so that you can keep up to date with the latest episodes of the Lions Grid. Typically, we're coming at you pregame on Sundays, postgame on Mondays, and you can catch all of our great content on all four of those platforms. Again, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. And even after the fact, you can find the recordings and things. They're all on those platforms. We appreciate your support, and we'll catch you during the next episode. Again, I'm Kevin Marhine. Go Lions, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye bye.